Welcome to Veronica Live, and we are here with our first guest, and we have Ron Hart. He is a contributor to Daily Caller, and he's our favorite libertarian. And Ron, I love everything you write. I always laugh. Oh my gosh, you're so fun, and we have so much to talk about. So I'm just going to start throwing stuff at you. Fani Willis, I mean, what was that yesterday? How did she get a pass?
Well, Atlanta has long been corrupt, right? So I said in the column about 2 months ago or a month ago that I didn't think the judge was going to throw the case out because this was his Judge Ito moment. You know, the OJ judge became famous or infamous for the OJ trial, years ago, and he, has an ego. He let cameras in the courtroom, which is one sign he was digging this whole thing, and two, fundamentally, the whole system is very corrupt. I think he gave money, Fani Willis, as a donation as well. So, he's not going to let it go. That was kind of a way to split the baby, get Nathan Wade off the case, act like it was his problem for being paid. And also, too, it hasn't been well publicized, but she spent seizure money. The DA seizes money from people, which I always find very interesting. They're able to seize money. As a libertarian, this is problematic. Seize money from people and keep it. It becomes their honey hole, their little stash of money, and she was writing checks from her seizure money initially to pay for them.
Well, I just can't believe the woman got a pass because we saw her on the stand. She was so cringeworthy, and plus her head is exploded because now she likes being famous. I think, Ron.
Yeah, a lot of this is about becoming famous, right? It's a model that if you go after high-profile people, you get on TV. I think there's got to be some clapbacks and bite back on this stuff because when that happens, it's basically a situation where people just they'll take cases that aren't worthy of their attention, where robbers, murderers, rapists are going free in the streets of Atlanta or Fulton County, and they're focusing their attention on this. And Wade also has never tried a felony case. He's never tried a racketeering case. He's basically a slip and fall lawyer from Cobb County who happened to be sleeping with her. So the corruption in the department is tough. And the question was posed yesterday, you're probably going to pose it, is it good for Trump or bad for Trump? It'd been better if they'd moved to Cobb County or some more balanced county. Fulton County, 75% votes for Democrats, and so the jury pool will be similar. And they'll do things down there, as you would imagine, that'll be unfair to Trump and his co-defenders. They also ballyhoo this notion, well, 4 people had taken a plea deal. They admitted the plea deal. They admitted they'd done it. Well, these are lawyers who are threatening with losing their license. They'll say, okay, take a plea deal. We'll give you 1 month suspended sentence, or we'll give you this. And they just want to stop paying lawyers. It's not like they admitted some major conspiracy. They want to get it over with keep their law license and have a 1 month or 3 month suspended sentence and be done with it. It's a very reasonable and logical thing. You can't just crow, hey, that we got a bunch of convictions or plea deals. That's just not how it works.
Well, you are so funny. I've got to read what you wrote about her dress. So you wrote, the New York Times gushed about her pink dress. It turned out she had it on backwards. It might become the second most famous dress in the history of Democrat perjury behind Monica Lewinsky's blue dress, of course. Maybe her dress was on backwards after a nude meeting where she and Wade examined briefs. Ron!
I think any reasonable person would have to know the 2 people in their 50s who met at a conference, 3 or 4 years ago, didn't start having sex until after he was hired, 7 months ago. I mean, he was married, and they were having an affair. Clearly, they're traveling together. Belize and other countries. She didn't know what continent Belize was in. And here's a woman. Here's the real story about Fani Willis. I wish any responsible journalist would look into this if you can, or at least a political figure. Her net worth is $8 million. It's gone from zero basically a few years ago to $8 million. She doesn't have a checking account, so she's not exactly Warren Buffett, right?
Right.
So I would be curious if Soros. It's something I'm talking about Alvin Bragg and Latifah James. their net worth has gone up tremendously in the last few years. And let's just see what the source of the income is.
Well,
are we comfortable where the money's coming from?
What was really funny last night, Ron, I had the Communist News Network on, and Fani Willis's spiritual advisor came to speak and said, we really should leave her alone. She's not a bad person. And I mean, it was so disgusting because he was a man of God and the devil horns were popping out of his head. So, But
you claim racism, that's an easy cop-out. It's not racist
right,
at all.
Right.
It's not even close. In fact, racism is probably what kept you on the case and kept you elected and has kept people away from even asking about your net worth. I mean, it works the other direction. And anytime you say that, I'm really disappointed in this judge. It is disappointing that he's done this and allowed this to happen. And the DOJ and the FBI, with all their politically motivated crimes, really ruined the justice system. I mean, no one trusts it anymore. No. The trust in the justice system has gone down precipitously in the last few years. It's because of these actors, the Comeys, the people that use it politically for their own advantage.
So what about the State of the Union? I know we have to talk about that, Ron, because, I watched the whole thing and it was just so painful. And, whatever he's on, they definitely had him hyped up.
Angry
we found Hunter's. Apparently, we found Hunter's crack, or somewhere around. I wrote for him. He exceeded expectations, which were actually pretty low, but he did a pretty good job in terms of that. It was more of a political speech, than really a uplifting. Come together. Let's do this thing type of speech. Remember that there were a lot. He said he reduced the budget deficit by $2 trillion. Are you kidding me? And he talks about job growth. Okay, you're a government. You shut the economy down over COVID. Draconian. Shut the economy down over COVID. You tell people to fire people. They fire them, and then you reopen the economy. 2023, and they hire everybody back. You say, hey, look at my job growth. That's not job growth. You're just hiring people back from what you made them lay it off during COVID. So, I mean, everything he does is so disingenuous.
Do you think the cookies and the number of chips in a bag it's a responsive chord with the American people?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. A guy with a history of being a segregist got to be really careful saying Snickers. Especially given his problems with speaking. I mean, there's the same old trope to blame greedy corporations for raising prices. Look, dude, you raise material costs, you raise oil and gas costs, which really goes into almost everything we use. You raise electrical bills, you raise regulatory costs for companies, and when they pass it on, you turn and call them greedy. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is your inflation, and they're just it's just very normal that any business passes it on to the consumer. And insurance prices are up. Auto insurance is up 20% last year. I mean, everything they do is inflationary, and then they turn around and call corporations greedy. I mean, I think people know better than that.
Well, I don't know why they don't call the government greedy. It come out this week with a $7-something trillion budget. I mean, it was just insane, the amount of spending that it just seemed to have no end in sight.
When they borrow the money, they print the money, and that's inflationary. That's the whole basis of inflation is supply and demand. They're printing more supply of dollars, and it's inflationary. And they're the root cause of inflation. Cut down the pipelines. The first thing they did is shut down the pipelines. They're making drilling harder. Oil prices have gone up, almost 40-50%. That's passed on to the consumers. They're shoving these electric cars down people's throats. That need not be. I mean, that game's over. I mean, I just think that's over, and it's just more about control. Everything they come up with, every social virtue signaling thing they come up with, always it leads to them getting more control, right? Well, we got to do something about this. Okay, we got to have more control. Every problem they come up with, the solution is them having more control, and people I think are tired of it. And as intolerable as Trump is personality-wise. He's the only solution to really going to Washington, D.C. and correcting some of this. He really is. He's the only pushback Americans have to this burgeoning, irresponsive, indignant, really deep state that we've developed in Washington, D.C. It's the only pushback. And that's why they were so over the top about January 6th. They saw the American people pushing back. They said, look, our honey hole being threatened here. They put billboards up across the South trying to find these. The cast of Duck Dynasty went to the people's house and walked around and shouldn't have done what they did, no doubt about it. But they monkeyed with Nancy Pelosi's podium, and that's trespassing, or maybe a little bit more than trespassing. Some of them are sitting in prison in solitary confinement for maybe up to 20 years.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. What they did to these people.
So what do you make of the Republicans in Congress that are quitting? We had Ken Buck this week quit, out in Colorado. McCarthy's quit. I mean, they're down to one person. They kicked out Santos, who was a reliable vote, over lying, which was really ironic for politicians.
Yeah. It's good. This next election is important. If we win the presidency, lose the House, then that changes the dynamic, and hopefully it'll be a landslide for Republicans. I think Republicans have to go to these swing states and watch the corrupt cities. They got to go to Philadelphia, watch Philadelphia for Pennsylvania. You got to watch Detroit for Michigan. And it really comes down to 5 swing states and what happens in those big cities, whether they're corrupt or not, whether the mail-in ballots are real or not. I mean, obviously we haven't seen any, we haven't been shown any wide-scale voter fraud. I've never really, written about wide-scale voter fraud because I haven't seen it. I mean, I haven't seen the evidence of it, but my gut is it's out there. I mean, you don't see votes come in at midnight, and also these mail-in ballots are like. I think the real story, if you watch 2,000 Mules, which is Dinesh D'Souza's documentary about it, that's really what happens. These NGOs go in and they gather ballots at nursing homes, other places. They print ballots, and they hire winos and people that are to go stuff the ballot boxes, and they come rolling in at night, and that's maybe why Kemp won in Georgia and Trump didn't. Is that I think this Zuckerberg gave $400 million to Democrat causes. That doesn't count what Soros gave. But where did that money go? There's no accounting of where that $400 million went that Zuckerberg gave. And my best guess, and I'd like to find out more, but my best guess is it went to pretty nefarious kind of special ops operations down at the low level, at the grassroots level, to get these ballots in there. And that's when they keep wanting this, save democracy, mail-in ballots. Say, if you can't get up off your tail and go down there and vote, show an ID, then that's, you don't vote. This is the way it is. You got to show a vote. You got to show an ID to get in Costco.
It's amazing that Zuckerberg can spend $400 million and then they scream bloody murder when the Russians, spend $60 million on Facebook and Google ads, trying to influence the election. Or have Schumer,
nothing influenced the election more than them suppressing the Hunter laptop story. I mean, that was a classic example. They should be ashamed of that. And also the Russian hoax is one thing that's over, but the Hunter laptop thing, them all suppressing that, calling anybody who I posted on my Facebook page, they took it down during the election. They said that's disinformation, not true, blah blah blah, like that. I mean, so if there's any voter suppression, is doing things like that, and the algorithms in terms of conservative people, what they suppress, and liberal people, what they promote.
But well, there's green election interference, and we had Schumer come out this week and say, well, the Israelis need to vote out. They need new elections so they can vote out Netanyahu. And yet they're the first ones to turn around and say the Russians, the Chinese, interfering with elections. And yet, they have no problem with us doing it.
Yeah. Well, I guess you can weigh in with your opinion. I don't know if financially you can go over and undermine, but the CIA, that's what's gotten us in trouble all around the world. The CIA has long gone into other countries and undermined their elections. In Iran, Cuba, they try Cuba. And what happens is, A, they fail almost every time, and 2, they leave such animosity in that country toward the United States. So much animus that we're just kind of hated around the world. And if you look at the major wars we get drug into, this is on Libertarian, you start with the Vietnam War, let's say, for example. I mean, World War II, let's admit, good war. There were lies told, but good war, we won it. So let's just set that aside. Fast forward, 5 or 8 years, the North Korean War was Dean Rusk, and he lied about a million things that got us into North Korea that really ended up being a big nothing. Then look at Vietnam. The Gulf of Tonkin resolution was about us being attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin, and that never happened. It was a lie. Basically, the CIA created a lie to get American people to go into that war in Vietnam. Fast forward, the next big for-nothing war is Iraq, Afghanistan. Saddam Hussein did not have weapons of mass destruction, as Colin Powell said. He didn't have yellow cake. He didn't have, he was just a, third world despot leader, pretty much holding things together over there. We blow him out, get him out, and now the place is a mess. We've done nothing good in these wars. I mean, the intents were good. The soldiers were noble. But the political leadership and the Pentagon has just been awful in terms of what they've got us
terrible.
into. And you're talking about a military-industrial complex, right? And now the Democrats, all of a sudden, the hawks. One thing that drew me the Democrat Party back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, which I wasn't a Democrat, but at least it held some appeal for me, was their view of free speech, of the Fourth Amendment, and also of anti-war. I mean, let's be careful about wars. We're the Department of Defense, not offense, and if our shores are attacked, they come across the ocean to us. We defend ourselves, but we don't meddle constantly around the world, which gets us in trouble. We've used all our gravitas. We got no reservoir of goodwill left internationally because of these wars. And I blame Bush too for taking the bait, on those two wars, Afghanistan, and I blame Biden for letting Afghanistan let the equipment over there go and running like a little scared schoolgirl out there and leaving the Taliban our equipment. That's ridiculous.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Ron, you wrote a column and you mentioned how you liked the Tucker Carlson interview with Vladimir Putin, and you wrote, it was the longest Putin has ever sat through an exchange with an American who was not hogtied to a chair. So I was laughing so hard. But my question to you is, how do, you state that it sounds like Putin wants to end this. How do we end this Ukraine conflict? Because at this point, you mentioned how all these defense contractors are making money, but there's been no peace envoy to end this. And I'm over it. I'm so tired of it. And we're sending all these, billions of dollars over there, and there's no end in sight. So I wanted to see how you see it.
That was, to me, was stunning that we don't know that Putin wants to negotiate, right? How do we not know that? Now, why is Biden not get in touch with him? You got people dying, left and right over there, just getting murdered, slaughtered, homes blown up. When there's an offer for peace on the table that you don't even respond to. I mean, Tucker's the only one doing journalism anymore. Everybody else is doing advocacy, right? So they say, Tucker should have done an interview. Of course he should do the interview. You get a chance to interview a world leader.
They went after him so bad.
A world leader like that who offered peace, which could save money and lives. And I think the real answer is the Donbass region. You give them the Russian-speaking Donbass region, which is, I'm told, Russian-leaning anyway. And, you let him go. This false narrative that if he takes Ukraine, he's going to go into Poland. No, he's not. He's not going to touch a NATO country. He's not going to touch a NATO country. And if we learned anything, he's a paper tiger. He's not a strong military force. This should not be a standstill. This should not be Ukraine should not be able to hold these guys up for a year or 2 years in a war. Russia should be a little much stronger, right? So, and just cut a deal, get this thing done off the table. I mean, and Tucker did a great job. And I applaud him for doing that interview.
I do too.
So, there's the path. There's an off ramp here, given to Americans. But the problem you have is Biden, through Hunter Biden, Burisma, et cetera, is owned by Ukraine somehow in some nefarious way. They own him. And so they basically come to Biden, and he's backdooring money to them. He's giving them money here and there behind our backs and funding this thing because he's being shaken down because they got information on Biden that could ruin, certainly between now and the election, that could ruin his chances.
Well, I wanted to ask you, and now I know why you're a rich man, because you sell your houses by owner. And do you know, Ron, I always have too, because the incoming realtor shows up because they want your beautiful home, and then they do all the damn paperwork. So why give them 6%? And so I'm happy to read this.
Yeah, it's a broken model. You're right. It's a broken model. I mean, there's nice people who are real estate agents. I get it. It's price fixing at the highest level, right? You can't. 6%. That matters. The $10 million house or $100,000 house, how much work goes into it. So, I mean, if you look at their document, when you list it with them, about 80% of it is about how they get paid. They're not responsible for anything. You're responsible for everything. And, it's this complicated document. And all you need on a piece of paper is, you want to buy my house? Yes. What's the price? Boom. When you want to close? Boom. Where are we closing?
Exactly.
Boom. When's the inspection? Boom. So you got 5 data points you put on one page, right? go to escrow agent, close it. The comps are easy now on Zillow and other places. You got some idea what your house is worth, right? You got a 6% margin of error anyway if you're wrong, but you're pretty darn sure what it is. Everybody's just scared of the process. God bless real estate agents personally, but the model's broken. And for people, you just try to do something different. And then, the other problem with agents, I find, I didn't say this in the column, is if you list it with one agent, well, 8 agents are a friend of yours, right? You list it with one and you get 7 pissed at you.
That's exactly right. Oh, well, the biggest boondoggle. Well, I wanted to ask you, where's Kate Middleton? Where's Princess Kate? Ron, have you seen her on the golf course?
No idea. I don't follow these people that much. I'm from England. I have English heritage, but I just broke with them about 250 years ago. So I'm out. Hart's a major English name, but no, I find it interesting what they do that. She's beloved, and they're very quiet. And I know Prince Harry he's a dolt. I mean, he's apparently just a whiny old dolt who's found refuge in Hollywood, and the liberal left, and they feed him Netflix money, and they're feeding Hunter Biden Netflix money because Obama got Netflix money. That's the new book deal, or it's Netflix money. They go out there, and Hunter Biden's got those cameras following him around Washington D.C. as he kind of is an interloper in those meetings. He darts in, darts out of these meetings in Washington D.C. on his corruption. He's got this film guy following him who actually paid his tax bill for him. So they're doing a documentary for Netflix, which they'll sell for 20, 30, 40, $50 million. And you see the memes on the Facebook, which I think is beautiful, is that Trump's in trouble for overvaluing his assets, supposedly.
Right.
Yet Hunter Biden gets $500,000 per painting. Really,
well, and then I have to ask you, because you started this, you said your stripper name in college was Hanging Chad, Ron. So I thought I would ask you about that.
I was joking. Yeah, it's a great word. The analogy there was that Trump in Georgia said, "Hey, I'd like to. Is there any way to put these 11,000 votes available to Raffensperger?" And he could kind of contest the Georgia results. And I said, "This is a long-standing thing. Gore held up the whole country and swearing in a Bush in 2000 over the hanging chads in South Florida over those votes. He went down there with lawyers and questioned it and tried to get more votes. And that's just all that Trump did. And he did in a shorter period of time. And Gore wasn't even president. And Trump was president with certain obligations to the Constitution. He just was fishing for more votes, making sure that everything was right down there. And that's what Gore did. The whole country stood still for the hanging chad vote in 2000. Somehow that's okay. That was cool. That was okay. But one call to Georgia, and Raffensperger said, "Nah, I think it's honest down here. I don't think there's anything to be had." Okay, done deal. Now you're arresting the guy and indicting him on felonies. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's such a two-way system here that Democrats get away with everything, and the Republicans are just they go after him with the 14th Amendment, which is a law that got Confederate soldiers back in the old days of insurrection. They can't run for office. This Colorado Supreme Court malarkey and got him on that. I mean, people are seeing through this, right? The more laws you have, the more complicated the laws are, the more they can be misused. And this is a classic example of misusing the laws.
Well, what are we missing? I'm sure you're going to miss Nikki Haley, and I'm glad she's gone. And then Don Lemon tried to fleece Elon Musk this week, too. So
yeah. Well, the Nikki Haley thing, her campaign was the longest Fox interview for a commentator ever. Drug that one out. As long as the Koch brothers were still funding yet. It's good to have voices, right? To see what her voice is. I just think she's too much of a Hulk for me. I mean, I like her fine. She probably would be more electable, but it's Trump. People are mad, and Trump's their solution, and they're tired of this thing. And it was good under Trump. We didn't go to wars. Inflation was low. The stock market did well. The feeling in America was more positive for the most part. The police were supported. And Biden's just a weekend at Bernie's president. We don't know who's putting those words in the teleprompter, and so we need to know it's got to be the left wing. And the reason I know it's the left wing is the way they treat the border. Right, Biden's done. Letting people over the border is not going to help Biden. Letting all these people over the border, letting them go in these cities and increase the vote, or vote either find somewhere to vote or increase the population in districts that get more Democrat seats. It's clearly a longer term Democrat replacement theory play. Biden's not benefiting from that, right? He's one and done, right? So that tells me that there's a group of Democrats there, left wingers, that have a longer term plan for the party, and they're just using him as a pawn, as a puppet to get that done. And they load the words in the teleprompter. They tell him to talk about global warming and this, that, and another. He just, he's so programmed to give campaign speeches because that's what he's done his whole life as a lifelong politician. He just reads the teleprompter and tries to emphasize the right words.
So
it's
true.
It's amazing how they're distributing these people all over the country. I mean, you go to little towns and town I was born in Nebraska, it's a little town meat processing plant was a big employer, and you go there now, and if you don't speak Spanish, you're you're a stranger. I mean, it's such a strange transformation.
Well,
I'd be curious where he flew those people. 320,000 or 220 or 320 they flew in, and I'm sure there's more than that. I bet those were strategic cities they flew them to, right? So they want to change purple states. So Georgia, Florida, Florida can be purple. Maybe it's more reliable red now.
Oh, we are red
but
now.
They fly them to purple states, right? In the districts where there's strategic reasons. And people remember that they can't vote. They say, well, some try to vote, but what they do, they count in the census, and they swell a district, right? So you have about 600,000 population for each congressional seat. So you swell a Democrat seat to 700,000, 800,000. Well, you get another seat, right? You keep doing that, you get another seat in that area. So you keep doing that in swing states. You eventually get Texas to turn blue. You get, Arizona. You got, you got these Michigan and Ohio. So I'll bet you where they flew them was not to Utah.
Right. Well, it'll come out for sure, Ron. It's such a pleasure. We kept you over. Good luck with your golf game today, and keep putting those op-eds out. Oh, okay. All right. Well, we will definitely have you back, and we've enjoyed hosting Ron Hart from the Daily Caller, our favorite libertarian.
And I'll be on the Huckabee Show, not this weekend, but next.
Fabulous.
Thanks,
Ron, and we'll be right back on Veronica Live.